Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Trevor Trove Gaming. Today is Sunday, the week of the Game Awards, so I'm going to go ahead and throw my hat in the ring with my predictions for the award winners. I've written out the category by category breakdown over at Trevor Trove in the link in the description below if you want to kind of see both my selections, who I think will win, and that's kind of what we're going to go over here, as well as who I want to win, and then you can read kind of the more in-depth, why, on Trevor Trove. This is not predictions as to big announcements that we'll get at the awards. I'm going to do a separate thing on Tuesday's video for Game Awards / PSX predictions. I'm also not going to really dive into esports and a couple of the other categories that I really don't know anything about and don't follow enough to really weigh in on. So without further ado, here are my predictions for the 2017 Game Awards. Up first, we have Trending Gamer. I think we're going to get a bit of a repeat from 2015, where I think the kind of funny community that helped Greg win the 2015 Trending Gamer Award, I think will help lead Andrea Renee to win this year. She's had a great year with the launch of What's Good Games, as well as coming in and working with the kind of funny crew. So I think it is a well-deserved opportunity for her. For Best Debut Indie Game, presented by Chic Hydro, I think Cuphead's going to win this one, though my personal choice is Golf Story. I had so much fun with that game. It was very charming, but I think Cuphead's going to take this. Best VR/AR game, I believe Superhot is my choice, and I think it's also going to win. I think more people probably played Resident Evil, but maybe they didn't play it in VR. So yeah, I think Superhot VR is the critical darling that's going to take this one. Best Independent Game, I could gladly see anybody in this category. You've got great nominees: Empire, Night in the Woods, Cuphead, What Remains of Edith Finch, and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Ultimately, my choice is leaning towards Hellblade for this one, but I think Cuphead is going to walk away with the win on this one. I think Hellblade's going to get honored elsewhere down the list. Best Handheld Game, Super Mario Odyssey was my best handheld game of the year, having played the entire thing in handheld mode on the Switch, but Nintendo seems to be really lockstep that the Switch is a console, not a handheld, so I'm going to go with Metroid Samus Returns, in part because its existence basically demolished the best fan creation category last year, because if you remember, another Metroid 2 remake was one of the nominees for that. That and Pokemon Uranium basically ended up leading, getting a whole bunch of cease and desists from Nintendo, and that category just got pulled entirely last year and did not return this year. Best Mobile Game, we didn't have a clear frontrunner this year like with Pokemon Go last year, and because of how quickly Fire Emblem Heroes and Super Mario Run burnt out, I think I'm going to give this one to the more puzzle-based Monument Valley 2. I think that team had a great game in the original, and I imagine they completely kind of kept it going with Monument Valley 2. For Best Ongoing Game, my personal choice goes to Destiny 2 because I got sucked into that, certainly more than I ever thought I would, but I think Grand Theft Auto Online is the game to beat because it's, in its fifth year, I think, fourth or fifth year, and it just is continuing to go as strong as ever. I think it also has more variety in it, so it's going to beat out a newcomer like PUBG. For the most anticipated game, presented by McCafe, I think my personal choice here is Marvel's Spider-Man, but I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to end up taking it. I think all the others are sequels, so I give it to Spider-Man because it represents, something new, kind of new. It's going to be an Insomniac locomotion kind of game, so it'll be, it'll have the movement of something like Sunset Overdrive, but it is going to be a Spider-Man game that doesn't have kind of a precursor like the rest of the games on this list. But I think Red Dead Redemption 2, ultimately, people have been waiting for that one for so long that it's going to end up winning this award. The Games for Impact category has a ton of great choices, and I could gladly see Night in the Woods or Life is Strange or What Remains of Edith Finch winning this, but I think this is one of those places that Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is going to get celebrated here. They specifically kind of highlighted mental neuroses and mental sickness and mental health, so I think that is going to kind of push it up above the rest of the pack. In the category of Best Multiplayer, again, I personally put a ton of time into Destiny 2, so it has my vote. I did a Destiny raid this year. I never thought that was a thing that was going to happen. So despite my early frustrations with the raid, it gets my vote, but I think even though I'm still firmly in the camp that it shouldn't have been eligible, PUBG is going to win the Best Multiplayer here. In the category of Best Performance, you had an incredible year for the women, for the leading ladies in the industry, so here to them. I think ultimately Melina Juergens is going to kind of walk away with this one as like a out-of-nowhere victory for Hellblade, so she gets my vote, and I think that's also who's going to take it. I can see anybody else in the pack winning it, but I think she's kind of the dark horse underdog that nobody saw coming, so I think she gets it. Best Audio Design, again, I'm giving this one to Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Its use of surround sound to emulate schizophrenia and the voices in Senua's head just was immensely unsettling in the best way possible, and so it takes my vote, and I think it will take a lot of the other people's vote as well. Best Strategy Game, I imagine any other choices on this list had deeper experiences, but I'm going to go along with the Game Awards kind of history of celebrating Nintendo a little bit, favorably, and I'm going to give this one I'm going to give my vote, and I'm going to give my prediction to Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I think they're going to take it. The category of Best Score and Music, I played 200 plus hours of Persona 5 and never really got tired of that music, so that's impressive. It gets my vote, but ultimately I think Super Mario Odyssey is going to win over the judges. It's going to be fresher in people's minds, and even though it really only had a couple songs I think that stand out, I think there's no denying that the finale of the New Donk City portion of the game is certainly one of the most memorable moments of gaming this year, and I think it's going to kind of help earn this award for Super Mario Odyssey. In the category of Best Family Game, I think Super Mario Odyssey wins, and it gets my vote out of anything else, hands down. There was no game this year that was like family sitting around playing, but this was, the epitome of a family game. It was a game for all ages that anyone could play, and was incredibly enjoyable. The game itself, you have a ton of fun playing it, and then you really get kind of a difficulty curve ramp up after you've beaten the game, if that's what you're looking for. So, fun for all ages, children and parents alike. In the category of Best Art Direction, part of me really wants to celebrate Persona 5 and Horizon Zero Dawn here, but I can't deny that Cuphead stands out above the crowd in an impressive field. So it gets my vote, as well as my prediction for the win in Best Art Direction. In the category of Best Fighting Game, I'm going to kind of reverse course on my earlier prediction that you always lean towards a Nintendo game, because ARMS was ultimately kind of underwhelming. So I think Injustice 2 has my vote and takes the win here. I think everybody seems to be impressed with its story and mechanics, and they've continued to kind of keep it alive and keep it in people's minds with very fan-favorite DLC characters left and right. Category of Best Narrative might be one of the strongest categories in the field this year. I haven't played Nier yet. It's still on my list of things to play before the year is done, and I know how much people have loved that story, so I could see it winning, but ultimately I think the sweeping, expansive story and storytelling and world building in Horizon sets it apart for me, so that gets my vote, and I think it sets it apart and gives it the win. Best Role-Playing Game is a very diverse category. I think you could see it going any which way. Final Fantasy 15, which came out at the end of last year, but in this year's eligibility period, it left me wanting, but it did impress a lot of people, and they have kind of fleshed out a lot of what was missing in terms of the story of that game, so depending on how they judge that one, it could have a shot. I think South Park is certainly the most manageable of these, and as a bite-sized RPG makes it the most accessible of the bunch. but it is also very much geared specifically to South Park fans, so I don't know if it has enough wide appeal to take this category. Divinity Original Sin 2 certainly has its champions, but it may have come out too late to really get people behind it in terms of voting for the awards here. So I end up coming down to Nier and Persona, as they both had the loudest supporters and have had enough time to get people to play them and support them. I lean personally towards Persona here, but I could easily see Nier taking this category. So Persona 5 has my vote and my prediction for the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nier ends up taking it either. The category of Best Game Direction is going to come down to what people identify and think of as game direction. For me, it means the vision of the overall product, and I think Zelda and Mario have incredibly well-designed mechanics, but I feel like the bigger picture of the project is a little bit lacking. There, I think, are a lot of shortcomings in those games. So I think Horizon, for me, has a better overall direction. But ultimately, I think a lot of the judges are going to go to kind of the mechanics of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and how they all work together. So I think that's going to end up taking the win, even if Horizon Zero Dawn is my choice. In the category of Best Action Adventure Game, I think Horizon here is my choice yet again, but I think, again, people were blown away with Zelda too much. The best shot Horizon has is to split the Zelda and Nintendo vote here, but I think Nintendo's ultimately still going to come ahead and take this one with Zelda. For the category of Best Action Game, my vote goes to Destiny 2. Again, as I put a couple hundred hours into that game, I feel like the shooting of that game feels better and is just more enjoyable than the shooting in Wolfenstein, but I think ultimately Wolfenstein's story and certainly the satisfaction of killing a whole shit ton of Nazis in 2017 is going to give it the edge here. So I think Wolfenstein 2 ends up winning this category. This is where that game kind of gets celebrated, but my personal choice would have been Destiny 2. And lastly, the big one, Game of the Year. Again, this is a tough one. My choice still stands as Horizon here, but just like in Action Adventure, I think its only shot comes in the chances of Nintendo's vote getting split between Super Mario Odyssey and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But then you also risk the Persona and Horizon splitting the PlayStation vote, leaving PUBG, which shouldn't be fucking nominated because it's not out this year, but it could steal the whole thing. So it's all a crapshoot here, really. Ultimately, I think they're going to go with Mario on this one. I think Zelda will win the action games, but Mario will be celebrated as, gaming's #1 icon and mascot, and I think Super Mario Odyssey certainly was a standout game, a stellar game, a Super Mario 64 for the modern era, if you will. So I think it will take the overall win here, even though my personal choice is Horizon Zero Dawn. But could go to anybody. I think Mario is fresher in people's minds as well. I think that'll play some sort of role here in Game of the Year consideration. So those are my predictions and thoughts on the Game Awards. Tune in Thursday to see if I predicted any of this stuff right. I will be there at the Game Awards in LA on Thursday. I'm looking forward to it. Let me know what you think about the awards and who your predictions are in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. You can read the full rundown of all these awards over at TrevorTrove.com in the link in the description below. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.